And welcome back into the Bettor Half Hour. Do we have a special treat for you? Former New York Giant in the building. Let's go. 8-year NFL offensive lineman. You've seen him on Fox Sports. You've heard him on Sirius XM. He is the host of the Geoff Schwartz is Smarter Than You podcast. Fired up to be with my guy, Geoff. How are we?
I am great, dude. Your setup is fabulous. I absolutely love the standing up, the energy, man. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. You've been supporting for a while. I appreciate having you. Okay, let's start out. You are absolutely a veteran in the world of betting. You've been around the block. You know what you're talking about. Let's start out with these last couple of weeks here. 9 of 12 dogs cover last week. How does that affect you, including the Halloween weekend going into this week in terms of favorites and just overall numbers?
This year has been rough in the NFL, as anyone who is gambling understands. And part of it is things that have happened in the past are not happening. And then we have runs like this where the underdogs win for 3 weeks and the favorites win for 3 weeks and home dogs aren't covering. Big road favorites are winning. And each week there's no ethos. There's nothing that's happening where you can lay your hat on. You know, home dogs, divisional dogs used to be boom, hammer them, I'm taking them. You can't do that anymore, right? And there are some really bad teams, some really good teams. And then 1 week Jacksonville just shows up and beats Buffalo. Not only covers, but beats them. Like, it's a weird year, man. Like, there's nothing to fall back on when times are rough. And this is why Vegas builds towers, right? They take all our money every year.
I'm telling you, Vegas now built off winners. Okay, so playing in the NFL, you've been in the trenches, offensive line. We all know the game is won and lost in the trenches. You know it better than I do. What's something, because of your experience in the league, that gives you an advantage at the sportsbook?
Oh, boy. I don't know if much gives me an advantage, but I do think there's certain situations where I'm pretty good at. I like taking, oddly enough, quarterback unders. If I find an offensive line is playing against a really good defensive line and that quarterback is going to struggle, I'll hammer the under, right? Like Jared Goff this weekend goes to Pittsburgh, and he has yet to win a game, by the way, without coach by Sean McVay. Their offensive line has struggled at times this year. They're playing Pittsburgh. Like, Goff's not going to have a good game. Like, instances like that, where if I can take advantage of an offensive defensive line matchup, I think it's pretty helpful. Also, there are some emotional spots in the NFL, not as much as college football. You can take advantage of just knowing how locker room might react to a certain situation. But I don't think it gives me that much of it. I actually think I overthink things sometimes because I'm like, no, there's no way Jacksonville beats Buffalo, right? And like things like that where I think it actually gets me in trouble. But I think more often than not, it really works when we talk about like quarterback play and offensive line play.
Well said. And staying in the offensive line category here, do you have an overrated or underrated unit that has surprised you or even exceeded your expectations from an offensive lineman standpoint?
I'm not sure there's been units that have exceeded my expectations. There's some that we expected to kind of gradually build up. I mean, Kansas City for one, right? 5 new starters this season. Guys, 2 of them have started before, right? And Tooney and Brown, but you add in Humphreys and Trey Smith and the rotation of right tackle. They've been really good. Don't let their score and their offensive production limit what they're doing. They're playing some good football. They're getting better each week. I'll tell you one team, though, the Green Bay Packers. When Bakhtiari comes back healthy, which I believe is this week, they're going to be much better on the offensive line. They've had some issues so far, but injuries kind of play a big role in how teams can play. The Arizona Cardinals for a couple weeks had Rodney Hudson out. He came back, and their offensive line looked much better when Hudson came back. Like, there are injuries around the NFL. Teron Smith, for example, right? The Cowboys, when he is out, the Cowboys are 13-15. When he plays, they're 79-61. It's a big difference when you have sometimes one player being out. So little instances there where I think teams are getting better just because guys are healthier and they're also gelling at this time of year.
That is a great stat about Smith there. That's why we bring you on. Okay, we're about the midpoint season here. One more game, of course. Do you have a lean or just somewhat of a thought of who might you put your money on if you were going value bet or one of the favorites? Let's say the Bucs coming off a bye where a lot of the NFC that they needed to lose lost.
For this weekend or for the Super Bowl? Because for the Super Bowl, I probably Tampa, I think, in the NFC. I think Dallas is really good as well. I just don't know if they're quite there enough yet. The AFC is a crapshoot, man. I don't know in the AFC because each team has a problem that they can fix. Like Buffalo, for example, right? Offensively, way too up and down, right? They're quarter, drive to drive. You know what you're getting. Now, if they just kind of click all of a sudden, then with their defense, then they're the favorite, right? I'm not sold on Tennessee right now. How about the Chiefs? The Chiefs just figure out their offense. If there's just kind of like, boom, happens again, the defense is playing better, Frank Clark is playing better. Are you telling me the Chiefs aren't a contender? The Browns are playing some better football as well, but Baker Mayfield, not quite sure. Look at Baltimore. Lamar Jackson's holding that team together. They have so many injuries. They're really only playing well because of Lamar. He has more total yards than like half the teams in the NFL. So some of these teams at the top, there's a lot of duct tape around issues, and I don't trust anyone in the AFC. But the NFC, like I said, Cowboys, Bucks for sure. I would have said Green Bay, but now if they lose to Seattle this weekend, they're probably not the 1 seed. Arizona as well. So Kyler Murray, much improved this year. But look at Cliff Kingsbury's been in the NFL 2 years now, but 6 in college, 8 total years. His second half record is atrocious in his 8 coaching years. Really, really bad. And are they going to finish strong? There's question marks kind of everywhere about all these teams. But Tampa, to me, we know what we're getting with Tom Brady. We know when the playoffs come what that team will be. But on defense, is their secondary back healthy? So there's not really a favorite, in my opinion. It's a lot of fun to talk about these ifs and ands for a lot of these teams.
I love it, Geoff. Okay, I'm going to get you out of here with this. I know you've caught many W's, but you happen to have a legendary parlay that was so close. Can you quickly revisit it with us? Because I know you like sharing it because it was an unreal payout.
Yeah, well, I had a 10-1 open parlay I was doing a couple summers ago, and I was up to 9. I had 9 wins in a row, and it was basically baseball, a little bit of WNBA. I think we're involved in that, and it was paying off 109-1. I need one leg left. The Tuesday night, I took a WNBA game, Minnesota Lynx minus 1,500, so it would have paid out 111-1. All I had to do is to win the game. They were hosting the Indiana Fever, who had not run a road game all season. They were 2-17. Not only did they lose, they lost by like 15 points. It was the only game Indiana won on the road the entire season. So my parlay went down the drain on the Minnesota Lynx not covering as an implied like 92% favorite, 93% favorite, I think, in that game at minus 1,500. Didn't cover the game, didn't win the game. They lost by double digits. Heartbreaker.
My gosh, 111-1. I hate to end on that. We're going to have to bring you back. Little cliffhanger here. And shout out for Geoff Schwartz coming on. Thank you so much.